Alright, so now we have our basic sprite. It's formed, and you probably have tried out different things by now, just as far as popping them in, and now you're ready to explore these attributes. Okay, so I'll give you the general rundown of these, and then we'll get more complex a little bit later. For right now, let's go to spawn. Okay, so right now spawn is at a constant of 20. Okay, I can lower that down to, let's say, 5. And now we have a much more bubbly effect going on. Now, the constant scale, let's go to 0.5 or 0.5. And you can see and you can see how it launches. Every once in a while you'll get a really fast flow to 1. Okay, so this rate and rate scale just dictates that. It's how many sprites, and then kind of a fast output, and you can random that up a little bit. Now what I like to do for like spawn is dictate the rate via curve. So you can drop this down and you can say distribution float constant curve. Okay, and what you can do now is hit spawn. This little thing right here is the curve, and for right now I have rate scale, so I can take control and click and drag up, and that rate, the rate scale, is now dictated via curve. Okay, also if I go down here I can click the same thing, distribution float constant curve. Okay, now if you click fit all to view, we have this. Okay, now there's 2 curves here, and you can hold control and left click to put like a key there. Okay, and you can move the key up, and you can move this key up. Again, holding control, I'm allowed to move these keys. You can see how much you have as far as control is concerned. Now we can go like this, and we get more if we just raise this key up. And now I can adjust it without going in here and trying to type an arbitrary number. That's what I like. Also, we can have fun. Let's have control and click over the curve again, and dip this back down by holding control and clicking and dragging it. And then again, control, click and drag it back up. So you can now see that I have kind of a delay and a little bit of randomness to it. It's not really random, it's based upon a really smooth curve, but still, nobody's to know that. Alright, so lifetime, let's click on that. Lifetime, you really don't need a curve too much, but let's say the minimum lifetime of this sprite is going to be 0.25, and then a maximum of 1. So you can see now it is a little bit more random, and it's almost too close to the ground. They're not making it far enough up. 0.5 will allow you to get it further up, larger chance of randomness to make it further up. Okay, initial size, same kind of concept. So the max, let's say the max is not 25, but how about 5? Oh, no, we want 5. We want 25 for this one, and minimum to be 5. See? Not too bad, right? Pretty easy stuff. Okay, initial velocity. Okay, so again, this is min-max. I don't really use a curve for this one either, and I really don't play around with this too much, but I'll say that the maximum, let's say it's 50. So now you get these ones that just are really fast jettisoning across. And the XYZ value just makes it so when they go this way, or on the plane, which is not going to happen on this sprite, but it makes it look like it's random and fast in any one of those directions. So if you don't want it to go fast when it goes X, you just lower that back down. Color of life, I'm not really worried about because I'm actually dictating that here. Another thing I use all the time is right click and I say rotational rate and rotation. So I can set the initial rotation of these. For this sprite, it really doesn't, you can't really see that too much because it's just a bubble. But if you had something that was more dynamic, the rotation, initial rotation, and an initial rotation rate is really fun to play with. Alright, now that you have more, and they're a little bit more random, I would mess around with this a little bit more. So you see, raise the rate up. And these right here, the rocker arms, can be controlled by holding control, clicking and dragging. That way we can make this curve a little bit. We can also hit auto, which smooths out the curve. Now the required part of this, I got these buttons up here at the top, so this one will turn it off. This one will dictate what type of sprite it is. So I can have points. For this one, as far as a texture is concerned, or a material, we always choose this one right here. Okay. Not a big fan of the S right now. We'll look at that later, but let's go to the required. Now I could have this via a different type of velocity. We can allow image flipping. Okay, so in this case I'm flipping it via square. You can see type specific is really cool. So you might want to play around with that. Really all these things is the ability to play around with them to see what they do. But those are some of the basics, and the curve thing really drove me nuts until I figured that one out. Alright, enable distance, near and far distance culling. Basically what this states is when the sprite is going to be, when you're right up in the grill of the sprite, you can dictate how close you can get to it before it cuts off, and how far you can get away from it before it cuts off. So maybe you don't want it to go all the time, you know what I mean? Like if it's really far away, maybe you don't want to see it and it doesn't take up any memory that way. Delay just dictates, hey, I can start the sprite now or I can start it in a few seconds. So sometimes you can trigger that with Kismet. And I think that's all I really want to cover with the sprites for right now. Yes, because this has more to do with the curve, and that'll get you started. So I would play around, try to figure out what you want to do with just the simple basic sprite. Challenge yourself and make something really neat out here. And then we'll go into how tiled sprites work, and that way we can have like an image sequence of some nature happening on the sprite. So that's next.